Hi everyone, good afternoon. How are we today? This is Haminat again. So today I'll be talking about some misconceptions about domestic abuse. And you should already understand why I am talking about this topic at this time of the year, at this time of the day. But just to provide a little bit of background, November 25 was the International Day of Elimination of Abuse, gender-based abuse, gender-based violence. So, and there is a 16 days period of campaign, global campaign, up until December 15, which is Human Rights Day. So there's going to be a 16 days global campaign against gender-based violence. So within these 16 days, different organizations, different civil societies, different NGOs, and also individuals that believe that gender-based violence is a violation of human rights. They will be talking about different ways women and girls are being abused. They'll be talking about different violence issues. They'll be talking about policies around gender abuse and things like that. So for the next today's 29, so which is day 4 out of the 16 days. So for the remaining 12 days, you'll be seeing more posts around awareness on gender-based violence, signs of violence, and things like that. So but today I'll be focusing on some misconceptions around domestic abuse. One of the misconceptions, which is the one I'll be talking about today, is around culture and status. You can imagine some people believe that domestic abuse only happens to people living in certain cultures, like people living in certain countries, people living in probably in the village. They believe that it happens to people that are poor, women that are poor. They believe that you can't be living in a more advanced country or having a good financial capability and be a subject of abuse. So that is a misconception. And that is why when a woman that is in that type of environment, for example, or that is well-to-do financially and maybe of a high caliber within the society, when she is in a domestic abuse relationship, it can be difficult for her to come out and say she's having a problem in a marriage or she's having a problem in a relationship. It can be difficult for her to speak up, and that's because the society believes that you have everything. You have everything at your disposal. You are in an advanced country, for example. You have everything you needed. Financially, you are well to do. But that is a very wrong misconception. A woman, irrespective of her status, irrespective of her financial capability, irrespective of her culture, irrespective of her environment, domestic abuse is a worldwide dilemma of women. It is something that is happening globally. It is not peculiar to a certain culture. It is not peculiar to a certain religion. It is not peculiar to a certain group of people in the society. It is a global issue. It affects everybody. I mean, every woman in the world. Although it could be more prevalent in some places. For example, yes, poverty could make it more worse in some places. Lack of policies to protect women could make it worse in some places. For example, if you are in an environment whereby whatever you are facing, even if there is a physical abuse, there is really no one to protect you. Or even if you want to run away from the relationship, you've got no support in respect to what your next life will be. In that case, many women will decide to endure whatever they are facing. They will decide to just live through it. Meanwhile, a lot of them eventually lose their lives. They lose those that didn't lose their lives, they lose their self-esteem. They impact their children with their experience. So there are so many negative impacts on women like that. So yes, we can agree that Domestic abuse can be worse in some places, in some culture compared to the other, but it does not cancel the fact that it can happen anyway and to any woman, irrespective of whatever she believes in, irrespective of her caliber, her status in the society. Now, do you know another thing about another misconception about domestic abuse is the fact that a lot of people that domestic abuse is only related to for a man beating a woman or a woman beating a man. They believe it's only physical. Meanwhile, that is totally wrong. Abuse can be in different forms. Abuse does not really have to be physical. Sometimes abuse is not physical. It's not physical, and a woman is still being abused. Emotionally, a woman can be abused because a woman that is dragged outside, that is humiliated outside in the public, it's an emotional abuse, and it is a violation of abuse. It is a violation of that person's rights. A woman that is being threatened, either being threatened with their children, because some husbands even use children to threaten their wives. They use children to threaten their spouses. They tell them that if you tell anybody or if you do this, I am going to take control of all the children. They tell them that if you tell anybody, if you report whatever is happening in our house, I am going to do something to the children. And women, we are very emotional. We can't afford to let anything happen to our children. So when a man sees that kind of emotional attachment to the children, he can use that to threaten the woman not to speak up. So that is a kind of abuse. And it is not until the man raises his hand on the woman before we can say he's abusing her. A man can decide to restrict his spouse from interacting with families and friends. He can decide to isolate her and say, I don't want you to mingle with these people. I don't want you to go outside in the market, because he believes that if that kind of woman is exposed along the line, she might report him. So isolating a woman is a form of abuse. Financially, a man can decide that I will tell you how to spend your money. If you spend anything from this money, you are going to get into trouble. Or a woman that does not even have any means of income, a man can say you are not going to work, even when he knows that he can't provide all the woman's needs, even when he knows that he can't be there for her when she needs to buy drugs or her medicine or whatever she might be needing. Even when he knows that he can't provide all those things, he restricts her from working. He tells her that he's not going to give her whatever she needs because he is in charge. He has the power. He abuses her financially. That way, that is an abuse too. People think it's just one of those things they will come around. It's an abuse. It's an abuse. So these are the type of misconceptions that people have. They believe that as long as it's not raising your hands on you, as long as it's not beating you, abuse comes in different forms, and it doesn't have to be physical before you recognize that it's an abuse. It doesn't have to be physical. It is, and you don't wait until it becomes physical before you speak up. You don't wait until it becomes physical before you seek help. So the abuser tries to play some games, some mind games with the victims by not raising their hands on them, but abusing them in those other ways that I had mentioned before, because they know that whenever the women go outside to talk about it, the response they will get is people telling them that as long as it's not raising your hands on you, you are fine. So they treat them in any manner. They treat them anyhow. They treat them in a way that damages them emotionally. Sincerely, violence against women is scary. It's really scary, and we should understand when so many women don't feel confident to talk about their experiences. We should understand when women try to take the back seat when we are talking about violence, because according to research, 20 out of 100 women have experienced violence at one point or the other in their lives. So which means majority of women have that problem. They've been exposed to abuse, so they see it as part of what comes in a relationship. So they don't want to talk about it, because they feel like if they talk about it and another person talk about it, it feels like it's just one of those things that's supposed to happen in a relationship. So they keep quiet. Meanwhile, the brave ones, the courageous ones, the ones that believe that they deserve better, the one that can't afford to die in the name of being married or in the name of being in a relationship, they go forward to talk. They go forward to challenge. They seek help. They run for their lives. Now I'm urging you that is watching this video. It is not just enough to learn about abuse. It is not just enough to say, of course, I know all the signs. You have you should go ahead to talk about it with the women around you. You should enlighten the women around you. You should change their their perspective about abuse. You should educate them. You should provide that listening ears. You shouldn't judge a woman that is trying to run away from an abusive relationship. And when they eventually tell you about their story, you don't stigmatize them. You don't say you don't want to render help to them. You don't want to give them job because you think they are not going to perform better because they are just coming out from an abusive relationship, because you think they have been damaged emotionally. You think they can't thrive again. You don't stigmatize them. You give them chance. You give them chance to make something out of life. You do everything within your power to see how you can support them. That way, you are encouraging more people to speak up. When we talk about abuse, when we raise awareness, when we campaign, when we talk about all these issues, when we all come together to challenge these norms, we are saving women's lives. I'm going to be stopping here this morning. In my other video, I'll be talking about workplace harassment, because that is another violence that happens at the workplace. It is another abuse that happens to women in their workplace. Thank you. If you like this video, if you want to see more content like this, I'm begging you to please follow the page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I promise to come back with more educating content specifically to empower women and of course men. Thank you.